Time.
Good evening. The meeting is open. This is going to be a longish meeting. We've got 10 items, and we've got a presentation about recodification first. So settle in. The first thing on the agenda, every planning board meeting, is a time for public comment. If there's something you want to talk about to the planning board and to the people listening, and it's not on the agenda, now is the time for that. Is there anyone who would like to do that? Okay, not. When you wish to speak, you're very welcome to speak. You have to raise your hand, be recognized, and go over there to the microphone, because the microphone, it's not really a microphone. It connects to the TV, and people at home are watching. I don't know that they're watching in vast numbers, but they're there, and we hear comments from them. So when you go to the microphone, please state your name and which item you're commenting on, and then say what you will and try to keep it brief and not repeating something that's already been said. So those are our only rules. Tonight we're going to begin with a public hearing on the recodification. How many of you are actually familiar with recodification already? I know the board is. I know Bob Mitchell is. But recodification was approved last November, and we thought, well, that's nice, we can start to use it. But no, we couldn't. The Attorney General's office found problems with it. We had claimed it was no changes. We said that to town meeting. The Attorney General said there have been changes, we need to address that, and so we have been back to work with our consultants in order to address the things the Attorney General brought to our attention, and are beginning public hearings now on the revised recodified bylaw. So we hope that this revision is going to be acceptable to town meeting, and that we will then be free to go ahead and use it. Here tonight to make our presentation, we have one of our two consultants. The consultants have been working with the town on this, I believe, for over 5 years. Is that right? Yep, just about. So we began a long time ago. It's been a very thorough... Oh, the minutes, we'll get to that. Yep. It's been very thorough. I'd like you to recognize Bob Mitchell's expertise as you listen to him. He is, belongs to the Association of Certified Planners, and it's hard to become a fellow of that institute, but he is one of those, and he has many years of experience helping municipalities across the Commonwealth work on their zoning bylaws. He is not a beginner, and he has been working with us very much on it. Our other consultant, who is not here tonight, was a town council in the western part of the state for a number of years, and then he was the head of the Municipal Services Unit of the Attorney General's office. That's the unit that reviews this work later. So we felt that we had really good help with doing this, that we will be okay. They have helped us again to prepare this revision. Before we begin, I forgot to do the minutes. Paul?
I recommend approval of the minutes of August 23rd, 2022 as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Jed, is there anything you want to say before Bob Mitchell begins his presentation?
Just remind Paul that we need to open the hearing by reading the public hearing notice into the record.
Okay. Who is going to read that?
Paul.
Paul, are you going? You didn't
Ready.
appear to be ready. Okay.
Notice this public hearing was published on August 26, 2022, and September 2nd, 2022.
Okay. And should we read the article?
I think you have to read the entire document. I apologize in advance.
Would you rather that I read it?
It's completely up to you. Rock, paper, scissors?
I'm looking at Bob.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Oh, okay, wait, I'll get my reading glasses and I'll read it. The reason this article matters is that fault was found also with the wording of the article, that we should have been alerting town meeting members to the fact that there would be changes that they were being asked to approve, but we did not do that. So we now have wording that we believe is acceptable to the Attorney General's office and to our own counsel. And Jed, you appear to be ready to read this.
I don't have it in front of me, but you
Okay,
do
I've
need to
got
read
it.
the entire.
Here it
notice.
is. This is the article we're going to present to town meeting, if this is the way it goes forward after these hearings, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw to renumber, recaption, recodify, and to make clerical and substantive revisions to the zoning bylaw by A, reorganizing the layout of the bylaw and adding tables, B, assigning new article numbers, C, renumbering sections of the bylaw accordingly, D, updating internal references to reflect the new numbering system, E, updating the existing text to conform with state statutes and regulations, F, adding new text to provide clarity, specificity, and structure, G, correcting typographical errors, H, eliminating outdated references and terms, and I, adding recent town meeting approved bylaw language where necessary, all is set forth in the document entitled Town of Falmouth, Massachusetts Zoning Bylaw, which is, copies available over there, and you may have a copy if you would like one. Chapter 240, Article 1 through 14, November 2022, on file with the town clerk, or do or take any other action on the matter on behalf of the planning board.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to share with the public, for everyone watching at home and everyone's here today, the zoning bylaw recodification webpage listed under the planning board's page. So I'll just, if you were to come to the town's website and you navigate to the planning board page, which I will do right now, click on that. Under current projects, you expand that menu. And under zoning bylaw recodification is where I was just showing. All of the information that's being presented here tonight is also on the webpage itself. So the actual document, the full recodified bylaw, is here in a link. In addition to that, which we will be going through tonight, is a response from the Attorney General's office for which our consultants provided their responses to those comments. That document can be accessed via this link here. There's also a frequently asked questions document that we put together for tonight's hearing as well as for town meeting. That can be accessed here. You can watch a short video of our last planning board meeting where I provided a short presentation about where we are in the process and why it's so important to move forward. And then if folks are so inclined, they can download individual sections of the recodified bylaw. It's 155 pages, but if you're interested in, let's say, Article 6 in particular, you can just click on that link and access only Article 6. So I just wanted to highlight that. I also want to just pull everyone's attention to the table behind me. We have, again, all of the documents that I just outlined here on the webpage are presented here tonight for folks if they want to take them home. We have a limited supply of the actual bylaw. We printed 6 copies. So if folks at home or if folks in the audience really want a copy and if we run out this evening, simply just contact us at the planning office and we can print a new copy for you. So
Is it available online?
it is. It's right here. So if you
Okay,
click on this
That's a
link,
link to it right there.
yep, it'll bring you right to the bylaw itself. So with that, I'm going to pass the torch over to Bob Mitchell, and I believe he's going to provide a brief presentation on the recodification.
Okay.
Thanks, Jed. Good evening, everybody. Nice to actually be in a room with people again after 2 years of Zoom meetings. I'm Bob Mitchell, as Jed mentioned. I'm one of the 2 consultants that have been working with the planning board and the zoning review group and the planning staff and other town staff on this zoning project, which is somewhat of a, it's already been a long-term project, and it's intended to go on a little further, which I'll explain to everybody as I go through the presentation. Yep, I'm accidentally hitting things here. What's the arrow buttons are not the buttons to move it up and down?
Zoomed in for some reason. Just escape. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
You got it.
So I'll give you a little history of what's been going on for this project and talk a little bit more in depth about what happened with the Attorney General's review and where we are today and what is being proposed for fall town meeting. So the project, when it started and as it has continued, had a number of goals. The current bylaw, for a lot of different reasons, is outdated, very hard to navigate, in some places very hard to read. A lot of text in the current bylaw is in very long, dense paragraphs. Sentences longer than 100 words, paragraphs longer than 400 words. That makes it a little hard to read. And so it's very poorly organized, which I'll talk a little bit about more, and it lacks consistency in all kinds of various ways. The goal is to make the bylaw much more organized, logical, more English, the use of more English and a less bureaucracy language, and organized in a way in formatting and sequence of where information is so people can easier find what they're looking for, and make it easier for people to read what they're trying to find, and to actually just use the bylaw. And that's everybody. Boards and committees, town staff, citizens, attorneys and engineers and architects that use the bylaw quite a bit. So there are two phases of this, at least. And the first phase, which I'll talk about more in a minute, was to create a new framework, just to basically build a new foundation for the zoning bylaw that is well organized and well laid out and user-friendly, so that as town meeting goes forward over the years and amends the bylaw, it gets amended in a way that retains the organizational integrity of the bylaw, which is something that mostly has not happened all the time in the town, which is one of the reasons why we were hired, because of how disorganized the bylaw is in certain ways. And as part of this phase one, a variety of issues and sections of the bylaw have been identified as needing more research, more review, more discussion with the board, with the town staff, with citizens, and those have been been put onto a phase two list, which is not what is going to town meeting in the fall. We're only talking about the phase one, which I'll let you see what phase one consists about. Again, the problems, the bylaws have been amended. For those of you who've been on town meeting for a long time, you probably know how many times the bylaw comes before town meeting. So it's been amended lots of times, often in somewhat of a disorganized manner. One of the major problems is many topics are scattered all over the bylaw. So if you're looking for one topic, you really have to work your way through much of the bylaw instead of the same topic, like parking, in the parking section. What uses are allowed? Put them in the use section and make it easier. There's various voices, because various people have been writing amendments over the years. Inconsistent numbering system, which makes it harder to follow the bylaw and get through the bylaw. inconsistent formatting, very inconsistent use of language and reference to terms, location of subject matter and organization, wording problems, grammar, vagueness. There are obsolete sections and expired sections in the zoning bylaw. There are sections in the zoning bylaw that don't conform with state statute. But there's a lot of it that's really good. There's a lot of sections that are really good. There's a lot of sections that are fairly new. And those sections are likely to, even in phase 2, will continue as is, maybe a little tweaking. But there's a lot of good in the bylaw, so it's not eventually going to be completely rewritten. It's just the major parts of the bylaw that have been identified through this process to organize this. So phase 1, people have been calling it recodification, but it's always been a little bit of recodification plus. Recodification is basically taking what is and reorganizing it into logical numbering system, a logical sequence of topics. As I just mentioned, organizing topics to put them in the same place and not scattered all over the bylaw, and reformatting, renumbering. But this process did all of that, but there were a few other additional changes that were identified by the town that asked us, the consultants, to develop some language related to those additional sections, and we'll mention a couple of them. Establish a logical, consistent numbering system and consistent formats. The word consistency will come up over and over again because that's one of the key ways of making a bylaw easier to use, is to have it consistently organized, consistent layout, consistent language, wherever you can. You can't always do that, but wherever you can. Make it in conformance with State Zoning Act, update and correct language, and those kinds of operations. One of the sections of the bylaw that we were asked to look at and make improvements to were the definitions section. There were a number of missing definitions, a number of state statute definitions that were not in the Falmouth bylaw, and so we added some of those. There were definitions, again, that were written in a way that was either vague, or in some cases people really didn't quite understand what it was saying, or didn't say what people thought it should say, so we tweaked some of the definitions. And again, we grouped the definitions into similar topic headings. So if you're looking up, restaurants, you'll find all the different definitions, and you have a lot of different definitions of restaurants, under the restaurant category, as opposed to restaurant or fast food restaurant, which is previously under F and instead of R, and different kinds of restaurants would be scattered around the definition section. So trying to organize them in the same place, again, make it easier to find things. One of the other major sections we took a look at, what uses are allowed in town, what uses are prohibited in town, what uses require a special permit in town by all the various zoning districts the town has. Those are scattered all over the bylaw, and they're all in text. They're all in paragraphs. So you can read one paragraph that lists 10 uses, and you can read another paragraph that has 2 uses, and you can read another paragraph that has 20 uses. So and you'll see an example of this, we were asked to create a table of uses where the uses are listed by zoning district. It tells you immediately in the table, is this use allowed, not allowed, allowed by special permit, by which board, special permit by the planning board, special permit by the zoning board, all in tabular format and in color. And I'll show you an example of this. A lot of clarifying language we found was needed. Language that gets adopted on the night of town meeting, everybody thinks they know what it means, but 20 years later, sometimes no one knows what that means. And that's common. That's common throughout every bylaw that we work on. People forget what was the intent of it. So we added clarifying language, and then town meeting's been busy for the last couple of years, and we've added the amendments that town meeting has adopted in 2021 and 2022. One of the things that we're asked to do by many people was get rid of the Roman numerals and actually use, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that make it easier, because what's XLVI, XVI? Quick. So just that in itself makes it easier to use the bylaw. We added the use of tables, color, white space. We alphabetized lists where we could. Again, if you're looking for bank, you'll know to look under B rather than trying to find it between, cemetery and zoo, someplace in the bylaw. So again, simple things. And numbering the sequences. Phase 2. Now, during Phase 1, there were a lot of issues that were raised in certain sections that people felt these sections, planning board, zoning board, town staff said, these sections have been problematic, they've caused problems for us, or they're old and out of date, they need more attention, they need more conversation and discussion. So during the whole process, we've had a Phase 2 list, which I believe is on the website, isn't it?
It is. Yes.
That keeps expanding, and it is the more substantive issues that will need more discussion for some future town meeting. And not, all of these aren't going to come at town meeting at once, I'm guessing, because there's a lot of big issues here. But these are some of the non-conforming lots and uses and structures, restaurants, home occupations. You can see the list. Various issues for each one of these topics, and there's a variety of other smaller topics and large topics that are on the Phase 2 list. In Massachusetts, and this is unique to Massachusetts, we are the only state where this happens, when towns, not cities, just towns, pass bylaws, whether it's a zoning bylaw or any other kind of bylaw, they have to send it to the Attorney General's office for the Attorney General's review. Now, by statute, the Attorney General's review is limited to certain items, and as you can, as you would guess, they're pretty substantial items. So whatever bylaw they get, is there anything in that bylaw that violates the state constitution? Well, obviously that's a red flag. Is there anything in that bylaw that violates the statutory regulations of the state? The Zoning Act, which is the main, not the only, but the main state statute related to zoning, it's called Chapter 40A. Is there anything that violates Chapter 40A or any other statute? Case law, has there been any Supreme Judicial Court decisions or appeals court decisions, because those are precedent decisions that apply statewide, usually, not all the time, but usually, where the state Supreme Court said, towns, you cannot have this in your bylaw. And, they made that decision for the town of Barnstable, but it applies statewide, so towns have to kind of keep on top of that. And the Attorney General will help you, they're very helpful, great office, very helpful. And then the big one, which is the one that applies here in Falmouth, is procedural. There's a whole set of procedures. Public hearing, you have to hold a public hearing, you have to have notice of the public hearing. There's a role for the town clerk in terms of what they do. Obviously, town meeting, taking the votes. Did the town follow the procedures correctly? And we'll get into that a little bit more. So, as I mentioned, excuse me, for Falmouth, all the language that was in the bylaw that went to November 2021 was fine. There was nothing unconstitutional, there was nothing illegal, there was nothing violated the state statute. It was, as Charlotte has already mentioned, that the Attorney General felt that the notice requirement, the notice in the town meeting language was not broad enough to reflect the scope of the recodification. And as a courtesy to the town, the Attorney General's office provided a list of changes that illustrated their concerns. So in response to that illustrative list, and I thank Charlotte for putting this together. I saw your article in the paper, but I added one thing. So There were 19 items mistakenly listed by the Attorney General as new text. Now, can you imagine reviewing a 150-page bylaw that's hard to read anyway in a limited amount of time when you've never read anything in the bylaw before? So she just didn't catch all the existing text. That's nothing unusual. 6 items were removed and added to the Phase 2 list based on conversation of the zoning work group and the planning board, feeling that those, excuse me, should be put on the Phase 2 list for further discussion, and I'll mention those in a minute. There were 14 items that were Scrivener's errors. They were just corrected. There were 18 items that simply clarified bylaw text. There was one of the zoning districts talked about corridors, that the zoning district had corridors, and if you looked at the map, there was actually 2 corridors. So we just put in the bylaw there are 2 corridors. So if you're reading the bylaw, you know it's 2 corridors, not 100 corridors, and whatever. So simple corrections and clarifications like that. 18 of the items were added to the bylaw because they were all to get the bylaw in consistent with various state statutes. You know, there are various sections of your bylaw that are very, very old, and the newer sections were fine, but it's some of the older sections. And then 10 items were added that town meeting adopted in 2021 and 2022, and the Attorney General wasn't aware of those. The 6 items that were removed and added to the Phase 2 list, there was a question in the agricultural districts. There's 3 agricultural districts in town. 2 of them allow wireless communications facilities, 1 doesn't. And the question came up, well, is that intentional or was that a mistake? Why is it allowed in 2 and not 1? And the answer wasn't clear, and just felt like that needed more investigation to find out, you know, if the town can find out what the history of that was to decide whether it was a mistake or intentional. Same thing with agricultural districts, wind energy systems. They were allowed in some, not others, intentional or in error. The use of motorized equipment, there is language in the current bylaw that limits the days of hours and days and hours of operation of the equipment, and if I remember correctly, that includes Sunday, and there was a recommendation to eliminate Sunday, but then further discussion said, well, maybe that needs more discussion, and so that's on the list for future, maybe a future change. Planned residential development, which is one of the procedures allowed in your zoning bylaw, the Falmouth zoning bylaw. There was questions about the open space requirements for 2-family dwellings. There's a list of open space requirements for single-family attached dwellings, single-family detached dwellings, 2-family dwellings. Some inconsistencies there, and again, is that intentional, or was that, you know, what was the reason for those inconsistencies? So that's going on to the Phase 2 list. Some of this is going to require probably a lot of discussion, and some of it might just be somebody in town hall goes, oh, I remember that. I remember what happened at town meeting 10 years ago, or whatever. Non-conforming structures, uses, and lots. This was almost an entirely new section. I don't know, 75% of the language was new. The current section on nonconformities in the bylaw is very old. It's scattered around the bylaw, and the consultants, myself and the other Bob, were asked to draft a new section. But it was ultimately felt that that section should go on the Phase 2 list to allow for more time for review and discussion of that being a significant part of the bylaw. So that has been moved into the Phase 2. The restaurant, how restaurants are dealt with in Falmouth is very, very confusing. It's actually contradictory. We discovered language that if you look at it in one zoning category, in one place in your bylaw, it says the restaurant's allowed, and in another place, the bylaw, the restaurant's not allowed in the same zoning district. Well, how'd that happen, you know? So, and there's this somewhat convoluted point classification system, but I remember, like the first meeting I was in this room to talk about the bylaw, the planning board, the very first thing they said was, you have to look at the restaurant sections of the bylaw. So that will be phase 2 for sure. And there are others, you will see something. So the current bylaw right now has 59 articles, and each article is like a chapter, and they are wildly different. You know, some chapters are full of information. You have some chapters that have one paragraph, and that's it. And some of the chapters, many of the chapters will have the same topic, but you've got one topic is in chapter 3, and chapter 26, and chapter 52, and if you don't know that, it makes it hard to find what you're looking for. So we organized the text of the chapters into 14, and this is not, I won't say a standard way of organizing, but it's a very common way with some tweaks in a logical way. Purpose and authority. Well, what's the purpose of your zoning and what authority do you have to do this? You know, the administration, how is it administered? Enforcement. Definition section, you're defining the terms in the chapter. What zoning districts do you have? What are the use regulations? The use tables, I mentioned the tables. We put all the uses into tables. Zoning overlay districts. So you have base districts like agriculture, residential, industrial, business, and then you have overlay districts and water resource and a variety of others. Again, overlay districts are one of those topics that was scattered all over the bylaw. They're all in one section now. Every overlay district is together with their friends, the other overlay districts. So easy to find. There's a special use district in your bylaw. There are special use regulation. Article 10, non-conforming. Now, the new language has all been removed, and the existing bylaw language is in there. Article 11 is the dimensional regs. Land use permits, you know, special permits with planning board or zoning board, site plan review before the planning board. How do you get them? What do you have to file? For what uses are they? Performance requirements. The town of Falmouth has a variety of performance. And Article 14 is, you know, all the other kind of regulations, parking, landscaping, those kinds of things that are in all the bylaws everywhere. So I mentioned the tables. So here's just a quick, short excerpt from the business district. And as you can see, probably just quickly looking at it, this is a lot better than if this was a 400-word paragraph. It's easy to see. Yes, Y means yes, you can do it. N means no, you can't do it. As you get into all of the uses in the business district, some of them will say SPP, Special Permit Planning Board, or SPZ, Special Permit Zoning. And you can see we've used colors, we've used headings, so you know what residential uses are listed, what community service uses, what business uses. There would be another category, business uses, another category, special permit uses, and another category, accessory uses across the top at the heading, as headings. So we're using headings to help people, again, navigate the bylaw. So this is just one of the examples. Pat will remember this one. From your bylaw, as how we're treating these kinds of problems. The first sentence is a 107-word sentence. If you look at that paragraph, you're going to have to read it about 5 or 6 times to figure out what's actually in there. But if you look what's on the right, first of all, you find out immediately what the topic is, because we have a heading, science and technology, research and development. And we just listed what the 7 different items are that you need to know about this topic. So a lot easier to read and a lot easier to. This is the new format. This is an excerpt. Again, a hierarchy, as you can see, a lot of white space, a hierarchy, color, size of font, tells you what the most important thing is, the article number, then what the first section is an overview, smaller font. And then the next section where you get into the details of the overview, intent and purpose. And then when you have what you can disaggregate into a list, which is what we did, as you see under purpose, we listed all the different items that are listed under purpose. So there's a hierarchy of what's most important down to, well, it's all important, but sort of how to flow through the bylaw compared to the existing bylaw. This just on its face is much easier to read and understand. So phase 2, there is a table of a list of the articles and numbers and of what's on phase 2. I did a quick count this afternoon. It's about 85 items on phase 2. So maybe you should be thinking about a phase 3. And they come from everywhere. They came from the planning board and the zoning board and the various staff members of the town. They came from attorneys in the town. They came from, the consultants. You know, we had made recommendations to the zoning work group. The town attorneys have been involved. And so where it was thought it was appropriate to put it on the list, at least to get the list going. Now, of these 85, likely some of them are never going to get back to the town because it's really not something that's that important, or you decide it's not really, that it's fine the way it is. I mean, there's a variety of things, from major topics to look at to little tiny one word here. Somebody said, I don't think that's the right word. Maybe we should change it, you know. Well, you know, so how many you do and how long it takes will be up to the town. And, but these are the substantive issues that are on the substantive issues I've been talking about. They're all on a phase 2, and that's for future town meetings. For this November, if this goes forward, it is the recode plus some of the tweaks that I talked about to get the language up to date. So I know that's quick. I covered a lot. I mean, that's 5 years in 100 words or less, I guess. But we're here to answer questions. And
Bob, before we move on to questions, I'd like to narrow the focus a little. Thank you for that presentation, because it brings us all up to date on the recodification that went to town meeting, so that we made those changes. It's a very different looking bylaw than it was before. And as Bob said, the Attorney General did not say there was anything in it that was illegal, that was unconstitutional, that was wrong. She didn't say there was anything wrong with the reformatting, with any of the changes that we made to make it easier to navigate. They sent us a list of 85 items and said, these are changes, and you told town meeting there were not changes. So we want you to address these items. And we have, and I believe that on the table, there's a handout, isn't there, Jed?
There is.
And it has yellow highlights on it. If you didn't pick one up before, please do so. You could get it now if you want to take a look at it. Because this is what we've done since we heard that the Attorney General's office did not accept our bylaw changes. Why did they not? And what can we do about it? And this is what we're going to be sending back to the Attorney General, taking it to town meeting this November to say, these are the changes the Attorney General wanted us to make, and then to receive it again. So we're making another step to get that initial approval, and it's limited to just those changes. So I thought that we might want to take a look at those together, and you could see the nature of them. Are these really big changes? So as we go through them, ask yourself, would you have spotted these as being changes, or would you call them tweaks? How would you have labeled them? Because it's open to interpretation. Our interpretation doesn't matter as it happens. It's the Attorney General's office that matters. And they said that they are changes, we need to address them. So that's what we have. Did you want to go through those? Because you had initially sent us the 85 yellow highlighted with what we were going to do about it.
well, I'm certainly happy to do that. That's 85 things we have to go through, so.
Well, I don't know that we'll have to do all 85, because I think what we're trying to do is give a sense of the scale of them. Are these overwhelming changes or not? And I'll say in advance, We found 6 that we decided might be considered substantive changes, and we've withdrawn them. We're not asking town meeting to approve them in November. We're not going to send them forward to the Attorney General again. We're agreeing with them. That was a change. We'll deal with it separately. For example, the biggest change, probably, was adding in the section on non-conforming structures, all taken from state law, because if you're going to do something with non-conforming structures, you need to adhere to state law. We, on the Recodification panel, thought it would be useful to include those in our bylaws. The Attorney General regarded that inclusion as a change, and we've taken it out. We'll deal with it later. So we're not going to fight that battle now. That probably was the most substantive, but there were others. So we've taken 6 things out, but the others, we found reasons to keep them in, and we're sending them back, but we'll explain them to you and to town meeting first. So what we're looking for, Bob, now are examples of the scale. I want to cite one more example before we go forward. You saw on a slide a section that began with intent. Do you remember it? You probably didn't focus on it. I did, because we worked on those a lot. Sometimes you can't tell what on earth were these bylaws trying to do. They're not worded in such a way that they tell you what the intention was. So we added a sentence, intent. That was regarded as a change. It's not a change to the bylaw, doesn't change the bylaw, but it does tell you more about it. So we're going to ask again to include that this time in November. It's that kind of thing. Okay, Bob, did you want to start on?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, just starting at the top, on Article 1, Purpose and Authority, as Charlotte just said, most bylaws have a purpose and intent. What's the purpose of this, and what's the intent of all these regulations in the bylaw? And Falmouth did not have an intent section, so that was added. And that's pretty standard kind of language that's in the bylaws, so that's why it was added. And if anybody has any questions, just, raise your hands or yell if I'm not looking, so you can get my attention. And then in the purpose section, one of the classic purpose sections of zoning, going all the way back to when zoning was first created in this country, back in the 1900s, you can find this phrase back then, to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And it wasn't in Falmouth's bylaw.
But the old bylaw said to conserve health. We put in the recodified bylaw to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. Do you hear a big change? That's an example.
So, again, just this, I'm going to speak for myself, and the planning board can speak for themselves, but some of this I thought was just tweaking language to make it clearer. I don't consider that some of these substantive changes, quite frankly, but so you can see the old text to conserve the value of land and buildings, including conservation of natural resources, and the new text divided those into 2 items. Divided one sentence into 2 items because we were putting them in a list. That's it. So the authority section is new. Again, this is one of those standard sections of bylaws. Okay, under what authority do towns have to actually do zoning? And it's not uncommon that towns actually have the wrong authority listed in their bylaws as to where their zoning powers derive from. They don't even know where they get their zoning powers, and they've adopted the wrong language in their bylaw. So this is the correct language. In Massachusetts, the power to zone comes from the state constitution. Okay? So I mentioned the Zoning Act, Chapter 48. That doesn't give towns the power to zone. That kind of limits more than anything. But the state constitution, what's called the Home Rule Amendment, has the power to zone. Okay, the amendments, not new language. That was already in the bylaw. Under administration and enforcement, planning board overview. So the current bylaw has a section on zoning board, how many members, how are they, how are they appointed, what are their responsibilities. There was no section on the planning board, but the planning board has, as you can see, has members, has authority, has responsibilities, and somebody reading the bylaw needs to know that you have two boards that are land use boards, In zoning board of appeals, I had actually been told one time by somebody back a number of years ago that it was 3 years in town, so that's what I originally wrote, and then I was informed, no, it's 5-year terms for the zoning board, so. Again, ZBA powers, comprehensive permits, that's a statutory power of the ZBA. The current bylaw lists the powers of the ZBA, but it misses one. So, again, just trying to make it comprehensive to inform people. Definitions, I already mentioned that. That was part of our contract to reorganize and rewrite and update. That's what we did. The work group requested that we add an index to the definition. So at the beginning of the definition section, if you're looking for any term, you can just look in the index and see if that term is defined. And it also tells you where in the definition section you can find the definition. So. Comprehensive plan, there was no definition added, it just was a reference to the definition of master plan. You can see some of these: adult daycare, large family care home, state statute definitions were added. Solar mounted, not new language. Agriculture definitions were added from the state statute and the Department of Agriculture of the state. Child care, family care, state statutes. Lodging, rooming house, state statute, marijuana, existing language, and qualifying patient, existing language. So the AG staff just missed a lot of the existing language. Use requirements. State statute was changed from 6 to 12 months. We changed the bylaw to meet the state statute. The temporary structures and uses, there was a discussion with the building commissioner who felt the current language was unworkable and unenforceable, and really wanted to get something that he could work with, and so this was the language that was added. Wasn't, so. Agricultural district issue, I already mentioned that's been removed. The accessory apartment language is not new. The wind energy system issue was moved to phase 2. The business district section was corrected. Undertaker. Undertaker is not a use, but it's listed as a use in your bylaw. Now, if somebody wants to be an undertaker as a profession, they don't have to come into this building to get a permit, right? Incorrect term. So we changed it to funeral home. That's the logical, most logical. And that's, just seems to us like a pretty logical change. So that's what we did. The old text under motor vehicle service stations is corrected. Agricultural issues, all state statute language added. The marina district the marina use was corrected. Contractor yards was corrected. Ground mount solar voltaic was added by town meeting in 2020. Same thing on the next one.
Bob, I think unless there are questions, I think we can stop there. I think people have, one, you've got a handout. If you don't, you can see it online. You can see the nature of the things that the AG asked us to correct, and we've made an effort to correct every single thing that was pointed out to us. And you can see the limit of them and the extent of them. So now, if there are questions, I know several people here, Kevin Clower, Bob Amelt, were very helpful to us in initially finding things, and we are appreciative of that and want to recognize that. But if there are any questions about either the content or the process, now is the time. Bob. Would you like to come to the microphone, please?
As some of you know, I think that the section on multiple uses and the section on residential and commercial mixed use are really contradictory, and so it becomes not clear if uses that we've always assumed were allowed to be together can be together. For instance, it's always been assumed that you could have a retail space with one or two apartments above it, that one or two single-family use or duplex is an allowed use in the business district. But we now have a new section, a definition, residential and commercial mixed use, and it says it's not allowed in any business district except in the business redevelopment district. And I think that's a change. And unless it should be clarified, I think that by special permit, you can have multifamily in the business district, which is the case, but that you can also have that with commercial development. When the business redevelopment district was created around 2005, I think it was, maybe it was 2003, that's the first time we had the language in the bylaw that referred to a mixed residential commercial use. And what it says is that any combination of use up to 6 is permitted by right. So that was new, and it was to allow a certain amount of mixed residential development, residential commercial development by right. More than that required a special permit in that district. There was no intent to say that you couldn't continue to have mixed residential use, residential commercial use in the business districts, particularly 1 and 2 family units that wouldn't require a special permit. And so I think that in trying to interpret that issue, the consultants have made a mistake in saying, I think it says, that now you can't have that use. So I really think it's a mistake to have in this table a provision that says no mixed residential commercial use is allowed in the business districts.
Bob, do you have a page number?
Yes, page 40.
And it's in the
I mean,
chart.
that's an important issue. It's a difficult issue, but I didn't want to let that. I've had discussions with Jed Cornock about that. I just think that to codify the no is a mistake. It may be that he could argue one way or the other, but now to say it's simply not allowed, that's a mistake.
Is a mistake. And you're saying it was an assumption before. It wasn't necessarily in the bylaw.
It was an assumption you could do that,
Practice.
and it was done many times. I checked myself looking at the assessor's records and found more than 50 properties in the business zones that are not in the Mr. Cod district that
Get the language.
have mixed use.
You're saying it was an established practice.
Yes.
You can find it.
Yes.
And by making this exact rather than ambiguous, it appears to have excluded it, and that's a mistake.
That's correct. That's right.
Okay, we can fix that.
I think if you go back to an email I had sent you, I don't remember it now, but there's a term called multiple use that is in the bylaw, and I sent it to you, and I think that's what caused the confusion, because I was relying on that multiple use and this mixed use sounds like two different terms, but it could be interpreted as the same, and I actually pointed that bylaw out to you a while
You did.
ago.
Right. Bob Mitchell.
Thank you. Bob Mitchell again. Thanks. Kind of following up a little bit on what Jim said, there was confusion about this, and Jed, I think after Mr. Matt talked to Jed contacted me. And I went back and reviewed this, and so of the two categories, one is residential and commercial mixed use, and it has standards, any combination of permitted commercial, community service, business, and commercial uses together with residential uses of less than 6 units. And in the table, that is shown as not being allowed in the B1, B2, B3 district, but it is allowed in the BR district. And that is because that specific language, almost word for word, is only located in the current bylaw in the BR
Correct,
district.
and I think Bob Iment just said that. That is what he
Right.
said. But I believe what is being established here is that there was a longstanding use going on, approved. There are many examples of, in the built environment, of this having been approved and done, but it was not in this exact same language, and it was not in a bylaw. It just was a practice.
There you go.
And
If
we
it's not
have
in the
lost it.
bylaw, I wouldn't know that.
No,
So,
but we're not saying you missed it in the bylaw. We're saying we missed it as established practice,
okay,
and we miss it.
okay. Well, we can fix that in phase 2.
Or we could fix it in phase 1. And I think what we'd need to do is look carefully, not right this minute because we might make a mistake, but look carefully in the planning department with Jed, with others here, and with the attorneys, and see what actually would suit our purpose well, but not be such a change that we alarm the Attorney General yet again, which we don't want to do.
My point is, the multiple use is in the bylaw.
We can carry on this discussion
Okay.
there, but I believe
So if you're taking
you've got
out this
a
change.
flag on page 40, right here, that we need to meet about and find a way to fix it, I hope in phase 1. Yes,
May I ask a question?
sure.
So I guess that's part of the, maybe a little bit of the confusion. There is a section called multiple uses that's allowed in the B1, B2, and B3. So is these uses that have been built under that section? I'm just curious so we can know where to go from here.
Right,
It's there.
Well, the problem with that solution is that the multiple uses section begins by saying for any property in the B1, B2, B3 districts on which exists a special permit use. If you have a vacant piece of property or a piece of property that has a pre-existing non-conforming commercial use that doesn't have a special permit, that strict language at the beginning would say that's not the paragraph to use to do that. Now, I've submitted to Jed some time ago some suggested language that I think could go into the residential and commercial mixed use section where it says no. We could have something that says that 1 or 2 residential units may be allowed by right in commercial. Again, that's assuming it's not allowed by right if the commercial use is a special permit use. So, and we could provide that above that, then you need a special permit to have that mixed use. But that's
And
the present law,
we already
because,
have that suggestion in writing, actually.
Yeah, I've
But
already done that.
What I'm saying is I think there are several people here who are here not about recodification, but about something else. So rather than trying to find something we can all agree on right this minute, let's agree that we have solutions in front of us. We should get together shortly and see if we can do it in phase 1 or need to put it in off so that we don't alarm the Attorney General again. That would be my
well,
concern.
I really admire your hope that this can be done in phase 1, because I think it's an extremely important issue.
You have an
and
advocate right
we
here.
need to create apartments
Right.
in town, and they're allowed in the business district, and right now we're excluding them. So I just think that's a mistake we can correct.
I'm
Thanks.
glad you think that, and I hope that it's true. So, any other, Kevin?
For the record, Kevin Clower. Very quickly, and you might have already addressed this, but it's just something that occurred to me. One of the things that was not done in the initial recodification was setting an effective date, and I think that ended up creating a lot of confusion because in that case, it ends up going back to the date of first publication. So as soon as it was approved at town meeting, we found ourselves then having to apply under a new bylaw that hadn't yet been reviewed or approved by the Attorney General's office.
Right.
So I know of a few special permits I submitted that were submitted kind of saying, you know, under 10.41E, whatever the new bylaw might be, and then caveating formally being codified as 243C. But I think by setting an effective date of the proposed bylaw recodification, it could help to circumvent a lot of that issue.
Thank you. Thank you. We've been flagged on that before, but I'm glad for the reminder. Other comments now? Any questions, other questions about recodification, or not just questions, comments or suggestions for the process? Okay, then I think that we're ready to, Jed?
Well, for the record, Madam Chair, I think what you may want to do, because we've allowed for that amount of time, is just continue the public hearing to your next meeting date, which is September 27th. And we've allowed for it to be continued again to October 11th if necessary. So if you were so inclined, perhaps a motion to continue said hearing.
I will move that.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so we have continued this hearing until the 22nd and October 2nd?
October 11th.
11th. So there'll be 2 more opportunities to come back at recodification in order to get ready for a successful vote at town meeting. Bob?
This is entirely up to you as to how you want to make the motion, but I would just say that you might want to just make the motion till September 27th, because then if you can vote on it, you close the hearing that night, September 22nd. You just made a motion to continue it to both the 22nd.
Just to the 27th. Just to the 27th.
Oh, I'm
We
sorry.
can further continue it if necessary, I believe.
Oh, if necessary. Sorry.
Oh, was it?
I thought I heard both dates.
We heard both dates, yeah.
I guess I didn't know what I said.
Somebody said it, I'm not sure it was you, but I heard both dates.
Well, we've been slapped on the wrist about making mistakes. Let's get it right.
Will we discuss the article itself at that next meeting?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Okay, Pat, want to try again?
Okay. I move that we continue this hearing on the recodification till our next meeting, which is September 27th, and the following meeting, which is October 11th.
No.
No,
That's what we're not
that's
doing.
the problem right
I'm
there.
sorry, I thought you said that's what you
No,
wanted.
no, he
want one
suggested
day.
we don't.
Okay, till September 27th. Is it right this time?
Yes, only till then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're there now.
We could always continue it then if we want to.
Yes, we can. Okay, so we're ready to give up on recodification. That's a relief. And move on our agenda. Bob Mitchell, thank you for driving all the way down here for tonight. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you all. We'll see you in September.
Not November?
September, October, and November from what
Oh,
I
you're
heard
coming
tonight.
back, great. Okay, see you then. Next, we have a planning board decision. This is a matter that we've already heard. I believe we closed the hearing, didn't we? Yes, we did. And the applicant is Tessa Lineweaver. And what we heard is a site plan review application to construct an attached accessory apartment located at 410 Woods Hole Road. We have a decision. Bob, could you read our decision?
I'm going to ask that I don't read because I'm having a little trouble
Okay.
with my jaw right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd
Oh,
be happy to read it.
Pat will read it.
I move that the planning board votes to approve the application of Tessa Weaver to renovate the existing dwelling and build a one-bedroom attached accessory dwelling unit at 410 Woods Hole Road under Article 39, Site Plan Review of the zoning bylaw for a plan entitled Certified Plot Plan Proposed Renovation for Tessa Weaver, 410 Woods Hole Road, Falmouth, Mass. Prepared by Warwick Associates, Inc., scale of 1 inch equals 20 feet, dated June 21st, 2022, as well as floor plans and elevations entitled Morgan Project, 410 Woods Hole Road, Falmouth, Mass. 02540, scale 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, dated January 28th, 2022, as well as photos with the following. These are the findings. The 18,103 square foot lot is located in the Residence B zoning district and contains a 2,200 square foot, 3-bedroom, single-family dwelling with a paved driveway and an accessory gravel parking area. The applicant is proposing to renovate the existing dwelling and build a one-bedroom attached accessory dwelling unit. Following all construction, the property will have a total of 3 bedrooms, in parentheses, 2 bedrooms in the principal dwelling and 1 bedroom in the accessory dwelling unit. The proposed accessory dwelling unit, proposed at 752 square feet, will be 39.8% of the 2,200 square foot principal dwelling, and the property will provide 6 parking spaces. Therefore, the proposal complies with Section 240-231-3E and Section 240-108 of the zoning bylaw respectively. The Town of Falmouth departments have reviewed and commented on the above-mentioned site plan, and the planning board finds that the applicant has adequately addressed the comments, and the board will condition its decision accordingly. The planning board's review does not include building code review, and the board defers to the building commissioner as to uses related to building code and zoning. The board finds that the information provided by the applicant conforms to all the requirements and findings pursuant to Article 39 of the zoning bylaw. Let's see.
Standard, except for...
Yeah, these are standard.
Stormwater, number
For the
5.
conditions. I think that, no, okay, that's different. Number 5, the project shall not direct any stormwater runoff to public property, abutters, or public right-of-ways, and shall meet all applicable standards set forth in the building code as determined by the building commissioner, and all the others are pretty standard.
And these will all appear in the minutes. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Mrs. Lina Weaver can go ahead with her project. Next, on the agenda, we have, the applicant is Alex Guilfoy.
Madam Chair, we have a revised motion included in your packet. We've highlighted the date
I see that.
for you. We've just added a condition indicating the need for a special permit for with the ZBA. So that's a amended motion for you folks, dated today. Should be outside of your packet.
Got it.
Oh, there are a lot
Okay,
more
let me read
conditions there.
what this applies to. The applicant was Alex Guilfoy, a site plan review application to construct an accessory apartment attached to the left side of the existing detached garage located at 119 Davisville Road. The public hearing has been closed, and we have a draft motion that was prepared on our request. Pat, if you could read.
There are a lot more conditions on this one.
Just read the ones that are unusual, not the standard.
That's right. Okay, I move that the planning board votes to approve the application of Alex Guilfoy to construct an addition to the side of an existing detached garage to create a one-bedroom accessory dwelling unit at 119 Davisville Road under Article 39 Site Plan Review of the zoning bylaw for a plan entitled Certified Plot Plan for Proposed Accessory Dwelling located at 119 Davisville Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Prepared for Alex Guilfoy, prepared by McDougal Surveying and Associates, scale of 1 inch equals 40 feet, dated August 22, 2022, along with a floor plan and elevations prepared by Autodesk for 119 Davisville Road, scale of 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, and photos with the following findings. The 46,742 square foot lot is located in the Residence A zoning district as well as in the Coastal Green Pond Overlay District. The property contains a 1,540 square foot, 3-bedroom, single-family dwelling, a detached garage, and a paved driveway. The applicant is proposing to construct an addition to the side of the existing detached garage to create a one-bedroom accessory dwelling unit on the 46,742 square foot lot. The property will maintain a total of 4 bedrooms, in parentheses, 3 bedrooms in the principal dwelling and 1 bedroom in the accessory dwelling. The proposed accessory dwelling unit, proposed at 400 square feet, will be 26% of the 1,540 square foot principal dwelling, and the property will provide 6 parking spaces. Therefore, the proposal complies with Section 240-231-3E and Section 240-108 of the zoning bylaw respectively. The Town of Falmouth departments have reviewed and commented on the above-mentioned site plan, and the planning board finds that the applicant has adequately addressed the comments, and the board will condition its decision accordingly. The planning board's review does not include building code review, and the board defers to the building commissioner as to issues related to building code and zoning. The board finds that the information provided by the applicant conforms to all the requirements and findings pursuant to Article 39 of the zoning bylaw conditions. The first one is that the plan shall be constructed as approved. Second is owner occupation, occupied. Third is about the rental. One may be rented, but not both. The fourth is, okay, pursuant to section 240-231-5B of the zoning bylaw, an accessory apartment constructed within an existing detached accessory structure or within a new detached accessory structure shall require a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals in addition to receiving site plan approval from the Planning Board. Number 5, the affidavit that has to be submitted to the building commissioner attesting to the occupation. Number 6 is the stormwater runoff has to be maintained on the property. Number 7, that they have to post the address.
So, following ZBA approval, Mr. Guilfoyle can go ahead with his project, and that's good. I'd like to point out, Jim brought my attention to it before the meeting, now there's seldom a meeting of the planning board where we're not approving an accessory dwelling unit. This was a stab made several years ago at the instigation of members of this board to create more affordable housing in town. And we now have somewhere between 30 and 50 ADU units in town, and are getting, there'll be 4 on the agenda tonight. They're getting to be more and more, so it's proving to be useful to people, and it's good to see it used.
We need a second and a vote.
So, do we have a second for the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Next, this is a public hearing, a continuation of a public hearing. I think it's our 3rd or 4th on this. The applicant is Neto Politi. A special permit for parking within 5 feet of the front property line located at 797 Main Street. Jed?
Madam
Did
Chair, I need to recuse myself from this
Oh,
meeting.
thank you. Did we hear from engineering?
We did. And in fact, the engineering referral should be in your packet. We also prepared a draft decision for you if you're prepared to do so this evening.
Okay, who will be speaking for this tonight?
Good evening, Chairperson Harris, members of the Planning Board. My name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Rob Mills, attorney for the applicant. There have been several meetings to discuss this plan. There have been several revisions as a result of comments from Planning Board, Engineering Department, concerned abutter, and the net result is we believe the plan has been revised to the point that it addresses all the issues and concerns that we can address. The most recent changes, if you'd like me to go through them, include, if you recall, 2 angled parking spaces on Main Street on this side. There were at one point a total of 5, 2 on this side, and then 3 here. These spaces have been eliminated at the suggestion of your staff. There is a green space that will be landscaped out front, and there will be no parking allowed on this side of the building. This is a result of concerns raised by your staff and a concerned abutter. We have specifically clarified and identified and dimensioned a loading area measuring 14 by 45 in this location. All spaces, with the exception of the 3 out front, meet the setback requirements. All parking spaces within the site are not within an easement, as we understand it. We believe there's adequate parking. We've reviewed this plan on numerous occasions with your planning board staff. And I'm here to answer questions along with Attorney Mills.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that it's now acceptable to our staff and to the town engineer. That's really good. Thank you very much for working toward this. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this now?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Edward Kirk. I represent the abutter, Ellie Jamal, who's the principal of the Falmouth 815 Main Street LLC. With respect to the plan itself, it's been difficult to keep up with some of the changes. The most recent change from the last plan was the removal of the arrows showing the directional traffic flow. You may recall that there's a land court document, a land court plan. It was essentially an agreement between these two landowners, or Mr. Politti's predecessor in title, that this was the plan they would abide by. Now we have a situation, and I think that it's important that your decision, if you're going to grant this permit, that the plan reflect the information on the land court plan. I think it's important that anybody looking at this plan, if it were to be approved, would understand that you understand that there's two-way traffic on this property, on the easement, both coming onto the property from Main Street and then the other way going off the property onto Main Street. Also, there are arrows, directional arrows showing traffic between Lot 19 and Lot 18 on the left. I don't know why those were removed. I think if you were to, given the nature of some of the problems that has given rise to this situation, and the problems with parking and cars being here and there and everywhere, that there should be on the ground as well arrows indicating that there is two-way traffic, both going towards Main Street and behind the building, back and forth between parcel 6 and lot 18. But those have been removed from the last time we were here. I think they should be restored. The plan, the land court plan also gave my client a 25-foot wide opening to lot 18. The last time we were here, that had been reduced to 23. That is a breach, if you will, of the agreement, the other plan and the easement document. Now it's up to 24, but it still doesn't conform to the plan which the parties had previously agreed to. So if I may, I'd just like to reiterate one of the other major points here, and that is that whether or not this use is an allowed use. One of the elements which the applicant has to prove here is that the use, the property is suitable for the proposed use. He's got the burden of proof. I think we know that Cumberland Farms that used to be here, they had 9 parking spaces. And they were a convenience store. They were, if you will, a market. And any sale of sandwiches at that store was clearly incidental to the use as a convenience store. This applicant has stated that he's not a restaurant, and he's stating that he's a convenience store or a market or a grocery store. Now, and he wants to be able to sell takeout sandwiches between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., and he wants to say that that is wholly incidental.
Attorney Kirk, I think you understand that the planning board doesn't do uses. The BDA does. That they're not looking for uses from us. That's not in front of us.
You are a special permit granting authority in this particular case. You're not functioning as ruling on subdivisions and so forth. And so you have to look at the use of the property. And in this particular instance, the use that's being made here is it's a fast food takeout. And that takeout is not incidental to a grocery store. Cumberland Farms had 9.
I understand
These folks
your
have
point.
asked
You wanna
for
move
9
on?
more. They're basically doubling And the reason why they want the nine additional spaces is they're doubling. They need those 9 spaces to accommodate the takeout. So I'm suggesting to you that this use is not an allowed use in this district. And you cannot bless this plan unless you find that the use is an allowed use. So we're asking for that reason also, that this application be denied until such time as the applicant can actually prove that any takeout and to-go sandwiches are wholly incidental and not a substantial part of his business.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Yes, Madam Chairman.
Is this something we haven't heard before in our other hearings?
Good evening, Madam Chairman. My name is Robert Mills. I represent the applicant. It's clarification, and I will be very brief. A couple of points with respect to the arrows that appear on the recorded easement plan. It's exactly that, Madam Chairman, members of the board. It's an easement plan. A lot of the information on that plan is obsolete. As this board knows, the actual plan that was recorded and modified to be made into an easement plan was for a restaurant, mixed use, much like you were talking about earlier today. It was for a mixed-use restaurant and residential above. That was never approved. However, that plan was modified, showing the easement and recorded at the land court. So really what that plan is, what this board should be focusing on, if it wants to look at that plan and take it into consideration, is the black hashed marks on that plan, which in the key on that plan indicates that that's the easement plan. Nothing else on that plan should matter to this board. That's one of my points. And by the same token, the 24-foot separation on the southwest side, that again is indicative of what the plan that was proposed, which was never approved. That would have been the opening had that plan been approved. So those are the only 2 points I wanted to make.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Noto Plea Jr. The last meeting we had, I had a nice discussion with the abutter about the only issue that there was, and we resolved it, were those 2 spots on the eastern bank side. And we had a nice discussion, and that was the only thing that he had a problem with. I said, if we get rid of those 2 spots, how will everything work out? And he said, that would do that, everything will be fine.
Thank you. I really don't want to have to
No,
be
I know the back
here.
and forth thing. I wanted
Those
to be Ed
hearings.
up here before he started doing the whole back and forth thing. But like I was gonna say, we'll be more than happy to show you like printouts, and I can have you come in
No,
with
no,
me
no,
at
please
4 in the
stop.
morning and
Just-
make chicken cutlets.
Sir,
Since we're not
enough.
fast food.
Enough.
Okay.
We're
I
going
know,
to
I
close
got
the hearing.
Okay.
We've heard it. We've heard it several times each point.
No, I know, so I.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'd like a motion to close the hearing.
I move.
Is it new?
Well,
Is it something you haven't said before, sir? Because
that's right. It
our
is
memories are
It
good.
is new, it is new. Elijah Mile, owner of 815 Main Street. The recorded plan is recorded with the easement being 24 feet, not 25 feet, not 24. That's the recorded plan. Falmouth Engineering should have put that on the plan. He have a responsibility to do that. And I did not have a discussion that I agreed with the gentleman that was in front of you right now. That's all I have to say. But it is a recorded plan, and Mike had a responsibility that he did not meet, which put it in the plan. And respectively, you have responsibility to ask for a plan with existing conditions and also lane court recording. Anything that's recorded in a lane court. They can't just change the lane court and say that plan is absolute. It's on record, and it cannot be changed unless both parties sign an agreement to change it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm sorry, Chairperson Harris, but I have to correct what was just said. My plan shows the easement as heavy dashed lines, which came as a result of compiling it from the plan called the easement plan, which also had heavy dashed lines. They're depicted on the plan. Those are the only areas on the plan that we understand are easement. But because this was a concern and an issue, I reached out to the engineer who prepared the plan previous for Johnny Hatem. His name is Halim Chabah, and he is before this board on many occasions in the past, and we had a conversation. He actually emailed me if it were necessary to provide that, but the telephone interview was such that he concurred that I showed the easement on my plan as he showed it on his plan. So my plan is consistent with the plan prepared by Halim Chabah.
Thank you. And this is the plan that we will be using.
That's correct.
Right. So now we are going to get a motion to close the hearing. Pat?
I move that we close the special permit for parking within 5 feet of the front property line located at 797 Main Street.
Second. Second? Seconded by Pam. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The hearing is closed. I think now what we ought to look at to begin the board discussion, do you all have a copy of the planning board review? And I believe the applicant's got a copy of the planning board review. I hope so. One would be available to you. And I would, do you want to go over it, Jed?
Well, I can summarize very quickly the engineering referral that we were provided by our town engineer. Comments in bold red, as you can see.
Yeah, if you could just read us.
Well, so a very quick summary is that all comments that they had have been addressed. And those varied in terms of the total number of parking spaces on the site, the number of accessible spaces that were made available, the size of the accessible spaces, and the hatched area in between. The size of the loading zone had been addressed. Spaces, the actual parking size, at one point, some of the parking spaces were not sized appropriately, but those have been addressed. And of course, the 2 parking spaces out in the front, those have been removed. So the way I'm reading this referral from our engineering division is there are no more outstanding comments from them.
So there's no reason why we shouldn't give the special permit for parking within 5 feet of the front property line. That's what we're doing.
And within the front yard.
Within the front yard.
Yep.
Okay. In that case, I think we're ready to hear that. Does anyone on the board want to comment on it? Ready to hear the motion. Pat?
Okay, we have the draft dated 9/13/22. I'm just making sure we're all reading off the same draft.
The same draft, right.
Yep. Okay. I move that the planning board vote, maybe I ought to put my eyes on. I move that the planning board vote to approve the application of Neto Politi under Article 22, parking requirements, and grant a special permit pursuant to Section 240-109E of the zoning bylaw to construct parking in the front yard of the premises and within 5 feet of the front property line located at 797 Main Street as depicted on the plan entitled Site Plan for Number 797 Main Street, prepared for Slice of Italy in Falmouth, scale 1 inch equals 20 feet, dated January 24th, 2022, with the latest revision dated August 31, 2022, prepared by Falmouth Engineering with the following findings. The applicant, Neto Politi, is applying to the planning board for a special permit under Section 240-109E of the zoning bylaw for parking in the front yard and within 5 feet of a property line at the subject property. Specifically, the applicant is proposing to construct a total of 3 parking spaces in the front yard of the lot, one of which is located 5 feet from the front property line. The 18,750 square foot lot is located in the Business Redevelopment District in the Coastal Pond, Falmouth Inner Harbor Overlay District. This pre-existing non-conforming lot, as it relates to minimum lot size, lot coverage, and side setback, currently has an existing 1,831 square foot commercial building on the property. The property is subject to a reciprocal easement agreement with the adjacent property owner, 815 Main Street LLC, filed at the Barnstable County Land Court Registry, document, 1,383,970. Said agreement included several parking and access arrangements between the private property owners as depicted in Exhibit A of the document. Specifically, the agreement outlined parking areas that were to be either exclusive use or shared between the property owners and an, in quotes, easement area, end quotes, around the 797 Main Street building. The site plan shows the, in quotes, easement area, end quotes, as requested by the board. Altogether, the proposed plan includes a total of 19 parking spaces that comply with Section 240-1081 of the zoning bylaw. 2 of the 19 are accessible spaces that conform to the requirements set forth by the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board, 521 CMR 23. A special permit granting authority shall grant a special permit only upon its written determination that the proposed use will not have adverse effects which overbalance its beneficial effects on either the neighborhood or the town in view of the particular characteristics of the site. Pursuant to Section 240-216 of the zoning bylaw, the determination shall indicate and include consideration of each of the following. Findings. A, adequacy of the site in terms of size for the proposed use. The planning board finds the size of the site to be adequate. This 18,750 square foot lot is a pre-existing non-conforming lot as it relates to minimum lot size, lot coverage, and side setbacks. The applicant is not proposing changes that would make the property any more non-conforming. B, suitability of the site for the proposed use. The planning board finds the site suitable for the proposed use. The existing zoning is business redevelopment, which allows for retail sales, and the surrounding land uses are either commercial businesses or public use. C, impact on traffic flow and safety. The planning board finds the impact on traffic flow and safety to be acceptable. The proposed parking plan shows a clear path around all sides of the building and no parking within the easement area, as shown in the reciprocal agreement recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Additionally, the plan formalizes parking on the site, which will improve circulation and reduce non-compliant parking. D, impact on neighborhood visual character, including views and vistas. The planning board finds no impact on neighborhood visual character, including views and vistas. The parking improvements proposed include some minor landscaping islands, which reduce the impervious cover of the site and add vegetation to the current asphalt-covered site. E, adequacy of method of sewage disposal, source of water, and drainage. The planning board finds the method of sewage disposal, source of water, and drainage to be acceptable. The property is served by the municipal sewer service, municipal water service, and has an existing drainage system in place. F, adequacy of utilities and other public services. The planning board finds the site to have adequate utilities and other public services. The property is served by municipal electric, telephone, cable, and internet infrastructure. G, the effect of the proposed project on the adequacy of the supply of affordable housing in the town. The planning board finds no effect on the supply of affordable housing in town. Therefore, given the above and the conditions to be imposed below, the planning board finds that the application for a special permit to allow for parking in the front yard and within 5 feet of a property line will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this chapter, and that the proposal will not have adverse effects which overbalance its beneficial effects on either the neighborhood or the town. Conditions. 1, the applicant shall paint the new parking spaces on the property as shown on the approved plan as soon as possible in order to provide clear areas for authorized patron parking. 2, the plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. 3, pursuant to Section 240-221 of the zoning bylaw, this special permit shall lapse 3 years from the date it is granted if a substantial use thereof has not sooner commenced except for good cause. You need a second?
Second? Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment. I think it's very important that condition 1, is implemented. The striping in that area is going to be very, very important because of the easement and the other businesses in that area. So I think the striping is incredibly important.
The striping is important, and they're encouraged to do it as soon as they possibly can. And I'm sure that they understand that. Any other comments? All in favor? Aye. It's
No,
approved. Hmm?
I'm voting against it.
You're voting against it. Okay, so there are
There are 5 in
5
favor,
in
and it
favor,
needs
and
a
1 opposed, and 1
majority, so-
recused.
So we've got
So
a
the motion
supermajority.
passes.
5-1.
Yep, 5-1. Thank you. This has been a difficult one. I appreciate all of you sticking with it. Thank you. Next on our agenda tonight. You're welcome. Good luck with it all. Public meeting and planning board decision. The applicant, am I on the right number? Yes. Is 237 Old Main LLC, site plan review application to add over 500 square feet of roof area and more than 2 parking spaces to the existing property located at 237 Old Main Road. Kevin.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members
Good
of the
evening.
board. For the record, Kevin Clower, I'm an attorney here in Falmouth, and I'm representing the applicant, Brad Hanley. I'm joined tonight by Mike Borselli. This plan's been before this board on 2 previous occasions. We had our initial hearing. There were some changes that were requested, which we submitted to the board ahead of the last hearing. However, the engineering department was on vacation, didn't have a chance to review those changes. So we continued till tonight. Engineering did come back with a few requested modifications, which have been made to the plan that's in front of you on the screen and was submitted to the board last week. Primarily, there was the addition of dry wells and dry well details on the 3rd page of the plans. This is a busy night. I don't want to belabor the points that have already been made, but I believe we've addressed the concerns of the board and the engineering department. I'd be happy to address any questions or concerns the board might have.
I didn't see the engineering request. Was there,
We haven't gotten one since the new plan came in. They haven't been able to look at the new plan yet.
So there were updated drainage calculations and a drainage map provided. The engineering division just hasn't gotten to it yet.
sorry.
There's not a whole lot we can provide at this point,
Yeah.
other than it's forthcoming.
If I could make a suggestion, perhaps, I think we're on the right path with this, and I think we've responded to the outstanding concerns that engineering made. Of course, they should have an opportunity to review them, but perhaps we could continue this for 2 weeks or so and ask that a positive decision be drafted for review at the following hearing.
So do you think by the 27th we'll have heard from engineering?
Yes, I believe we will,
Okay,
yes.
so let's have a motion to continue to the 27th
I move that we can.
and a request for a positive motion.
Absolutely.
I just don't know if there's any I'll kick myself later for saying this, but I don't know if there's any public comment before you.
Don't kick yourself. We needed to do that. Thank you for reminding me. Public comment. Yes, please.
I couldn't see it. It's outside.
Thank goodness for recodification. After wading through zoning, everything I say right now may be wrong. My name is Tony Petrucci, 243 Old Main Road. I directly abut this property. My question to you is, does the bylaw 240-117 apply to this project? 240-117 is landscaping. And in landscaping, the plan has to show all existing trees at 4 foot 6 inches at 4 inches round, I believe it is. There are at least, all it says on the plan, well, it's not that one, it's the one before that, the pre-existing conditions. It only shows wooded areas. It's missing 36-inch trees, 25-inch trees, many trees. So under 240-117, the plan does not comply.
That landscaping zoning is very detailed. What's your response
It's
to
even
that?
more than that.
I unfortunately don't have one at this time. I was hoping to get to 24117 before the hearing, but we prepared extensively for the other items, so if
I can
I
read
may, in between time, more zoning to be read into the record.
I don't
this
want to.
evening?
I really don't, but it's right here.
Perhaps what we could do in the time between tonight's meeting and the 27th is respond to that inquiry.
Is
and
review the
determine-
plan in light of 117 and see where we are.
Correct, right.
All right?
What's the current use of that? What's the current use?
It's my experience and my understanding that when we have a heavily wooded area like exists, the engineers don't typically go in and measure each tree to mark them on the plans. So in a lot of situations where you have a wooded area, they'll note it as a wooded area rather than wading through brush and underbrush and whatnot to go out and measure calipers. So what we have is a proposed landscaping plan, and we have the existing plan noting that there is a wooded area. We understand that. But I think that in those situations, I've never seen this board go out and request an inventory of each tree on a lot.
Right, I've never seen that. Has anyone ever seen it?
No.
Conservation does it.
Yeah, it would be, yes, I understand you're right, and I've looked at those and was amazed by them, actually. But they are in abeyance. But we're not going to make any decision on this tonight. It's going to be continued, and we'll look into it. Thank you.
I've said everything I need to say.
Okay, so Pat, we're going to continue?
Yeah, I wonder, I shouldn't wonder, but I'm going to wonder anyway, because when you talk about a certain caliper, I think what I'm reading into this, what Mr. Petrucci may be concerned about is maintaining the larger trees along the property edges. I shouldn't be putting words in his mouth, but that would appear to me to be where the larger trees should be maintained. Or not, I don't know.
I think there can be every effort made to maintain what trees can be preserved.
Okay.
And I think that if that was a condition of a decision, we'd have no objection to it.
Well, let us ask the question. Mr. Petrucci, if you wouldn't mind coming back and telling us what is your concern? Not so much enforcing the detail of the zoning law, but there's something you're trying to achieve here.
Yes, there is, Madam Chair. Living right beside it, I have to infer that by that landscape plan, that every tree will be cut down in order to plant those trees. And that's the inference I have to make. It's not what's been indicated other than that. So I'd like to know what trees are going to be left, what trees are going to be taken down, that's all, and just be in compliance with 24117. That's all.
Okay.
I think I know we can work it out.
That
prior to the next
can be
meeting.
addressed, and there'll be time between now and the next meeting for that issue to be addressed. Okay, thank you.
My only concern, Madam Chair, is that short of going through and inventorying each tree on the lot, I don't know how we can identify which specific trees are going to remain.
I doubt that there will be required an inventory of all the specific trees. That would be unreasonable. It could be that it would be marking the major trees on the borders of the lot.
And I think, we've
That
had
would be
a
very
really good
reasonable.
dialogue with Mr. Petrucci to this point, kept a really open line of communication. I don't think I'm putting words in anyone's mouth in saying that. We're happy to continue doing so.
So you'll be in touch with one another and with the planning department in the meantime. That's good. So now let's continue to the 27th. Pat?
I move that we continue to cite the 237 Old Main LLC site plan review application to September 27th.
Second, from Pam, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I may for 1 second, because I'd like to go home, can I just confirm that we've continued the NECA development hearing?
Yeah, I think we didn't get anything else in on it.
I submitted a...
It's in your extra
Yeah.
work.
Wait till I find it.
Every now and then I want to see my kids. Not too much, but sometimes.
Remember, you're being recorded.
Oh, they know.
Be careful.
We're very open about this, Jed.
Where do we find it?
Yeah, where do we find it? I don't see it.
This is for the parking on Old Main.
Yeah, we submitted the
Here, yeah, it's right here.
continuation. I just want to make sure that
Oh,
we're
All
good.
right, so we're,
there it is.
I think first we need a motion to move it up on the agenda.
Exactly, just take it out of order.
So we're going to have a motion to take the Nika Development LLC site plan review application for an increase in parking and an increase of over 500 square feet in gross floor area located 259, 263 Old Main Street out of order.
So moved.
All in favor, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, let us attend to this. We've received from Mr. Clower a request, in light of recent comments from the Historical Commission. The applicant's considering some alternative design, request a continuance for this evening's hearing with the Planning Board. Would it be possible to schedule for October 25th?
It's following the next Historical Commission hearing.
Right, so it's going to go to October 25th. Can we have a motion to that effect?
Okay, but we also need a motion to continue the deadline.
Yeah, we'll have to, oh, and continue.
I'll submit any acquiescence to an extension.
Okay, so I will move that this Nika Development LLC be continued to October 25th.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
What's the date of the,
October 25th?
October 25th.
Yeah, so it's going to skip one. So, good, we took care of that.
So now we need to go back.
Now, back on the agenda, a couple of public meetings. The first of them is Bowler Engineering. On behalf of the town of Falmouth, site plan review application to construct a new fire station at 878 Sandwich Road, and I believe that is also a request for a continuation.
It is.
And we're going to need a motion for that.
Okay, they want to continue it to September 27th. I move that Bowler Engineering's request to continue the site plan review application for the new fire station be continued to September 27th.
And a second?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may, and to extend the decision deadline to September 30th.
Okay.
You want to add that to your,
I certainly do.
okay, good. So it's
So it's a two-part.
two-part
motion.
continuance to the 27th and extension to September 30th. Did we get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the site plan moves, and I think this is also because the engineering division is owing us some information.
Absolutely. They're swamped.
Okay. So maybe we'll actually make it by the 27th. Next, we come finally to the one I think many people are waiting for. Excel 464 Main Street LLC, a site plan review application to construct a mixed-use building with 15 rental apartments, 4 of them affordable, and 900 square feet of commercial space located at 464 Main Street. Mr. Ahmed. This is a continued hearing. We've already heard our notices and so forth. And I believe we have new plans. You ready?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You ready for me to proceed?
I am.
Thank you. For your record, I'm Bob Ament. I'm a Falmouth attorney, and I represent the applicant. So at the first hearing, I think about 5 weeks ago, the applicant and I thought we had presented quite a good plan in most respects. I think the planning board thought so, but certainly not entirely, particularly with regard to architectural design. And neighbors from the nearby condominium certainly thought we could improve the project. We've worked over the last several weeks to do just that, and hopefully what we have to present tonight satisfactorily addresses the concerns of the planning board as well as the neighbors. Now, We substantially changed the architectural appearance of the building. The rendering that's shown is consistent with that. Of course, there are architectural plans in the file as well, which I'll show you. But as you can see, we've added a sloped, gabled, Cape Cod style roofs. We've added shutters on the sides of windows in the front of the property. Other changes that have been made to the design include the reduction in the height of the elevator shaft, so it no longer rises above the building, and the entire building, I believe, is about 31 feet tall, well within the limits. In addition, and let me try to find for you the site plan.
It's in that same PDF. Scroll down.
Thank you very much. That's much easier. I'm going to start with this plan, and then we can come back to the landscape plan. We've moved the building 4 feet further away from the east property line, that is the property line of the abutting condominium, which is shown on the plan. So the building is now 14 feet away from the property line at its closest point instead of 10 feet. That's an important distance because that extra 4 feet allows us to keep most of the trees and vegetation that are along that side of the property, including all of the existing arborvitae, and we'll be able to save in that area next to the building, I think it's about 9 trees. And then we propose to plant about that many additional arborvitae in addition to keeping what's there. So that 4-foot movement means we can have a vegetated buffer up against the existing stockade fence. In addition, the movement of the building allows us to have the bulkhead, which is shown here, 10 feet away from the property line, avoiding any issue about it being too close. Other changes is that we've identified on the property all of the large trees, and all of the trees in the rear of the property in this area, all of them are going to stay. They may already provide a substantial buffer to the condominium property. Trees in all this area are going to stay. So, as you can see on the landscaping plan that I'll show you in a moment, that's a pretty big difference. We've also relocated the dumpster, which was proposed to be near the property line in this area. It's now been moved away from the condominium next door. We've also provided a photometrics plan that shows that down here, that all of the lighting will be retained on site with a very little exception. That's in here, and that's intentional. That we could have screened that, but we've left it because this is the location of existing steps from the 464 property down into the parking lot of the Chinese restaurant. So if there's light spilling over there, it seemed like a very good idea. I'll go back to the landscaping plan up here. It shows ready to be kept towards the front of the property. We have 7 arborvitae in this location to be installed. We're able to keep a lot of plants in this area. The numbers are identified on the site plan, and then we're going to propose to add arborvitae in this area. And all of the trees back here are staying, except I think there's one tree that's very close to this remaining 12-inch tree. There's a 10-inch tree that would be removed because it wouldn't do so well next to that tree. Anyway, it's getting close to the loading dock. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Tom Bunker, who's done the engineering for this project, is here. And also Joe Valley of the Valley Group, which will build the project.
Thank you. Did you say that you're removing the tree that's there by the landing at the back?
There, I pull up, you can see that there are a few trees in this area that are being removed. Of course, there are many being retained in this area along. But right here, there's a 10-inch tree next to a 12-inch tree, and the 10-inch tree will be removed. At least one, maybe more, of the trees that are being removed in this area is diseased. But we are removing a few trees, but keeping most of them.
Okay, two more questions. There's, appears to be an elevator shaft. There's an elevator at the back of the building, right?
Yeah, there's an elevator shaft.
So there'd be
at the back of the
another
building.
raised tower structure at the back?
It does not exceed the 35-foot height.
No, but it would be there. It'd be part of the profile of the building.
Let's take a look at it. So, this is the rear view of the building, and that's the elevator shaft. It's, I don't think there's anything, and it's also shown over here.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments here from the public?
What is with the front of the building? Is that now?
If you're going, excuse me, if you're going to speak, you need to come to the microphone and give your name, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Richard O'Connor, I'm just wondering, now that the, looks like the commercial space and room above it, what is the room above it gonna be? There's like apartments up there?
If that's for me, tell them I'm busy. The space above the commercial space is an apartment. One single apartment fills that space. Remember, the commercial space is only 900 square feet. I think there was some concern, some of you had, that the previously proposed flat roof above the second floor might be a gathering place. I thought originally that was a great idea, to have a garden area for tenants. The owner didn't, and now it's, you know, it's a sloped roof. There's no flat space up there.
Other questions or comments? We've read your letters. We received a lot of very thoughtful letters. Thank you for putting your concerns down. We really appreciate that. And Bob, I wonder, could you say, did you work with the neighbors?
So I can speak to that. My name is Mike Ahern from 190 Willard Street in Quincy, Mass. I'm a builder and developer as well. And the Nice Pond Condo Association retained me to help them negotiate with the Valley Group for the conditions that they would like to have seen from the previous version till now.
Uh-huh.
And I worked with Joe and his team, and I feel like we were pretty successful getting a lot of their concerns alleviated through the movement of the building, the additional trees, the lighting, and overall, you know, we can support the project.
That's really good to hear. That's very good to hear. Okay.
Any other
Then.
questions?
From the board, are there any questions?
May I make a comment?
Of course.
I would simply like to comment on how forthcoming you all have been in working together to get this to happen. this, in my estimation, is going to be a very attractive addition to the area. So I want to thank you all.
Thank you, members of the board.
Jim?
And I think it should be considered a model for anyone else that's considering this of how to do it and how to work with your neighbors and solve the problems. Because this is exactly what we intended a long time ago when we went down this road to create this bylaw.
Yep.
And it's worked. Thank you, everybody.
Excuse me, the fellow who just spoke, I didn't catch your name. Is that a
Ahern.
profession?
The builder.
Excuse me? I'm a builder. My name's Michael Ahern.
But is that a profession, working with the neighbors?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. It's like a reverse zoning consultant.
That's a good profession, thank you.
Sometimes I'm on the other side.
That's okay, tonight was good. Other comments, Bob?
Just that not every Cape Cod building has to be gray and white. I mean, when you drive down Main Street, is every building going to be gray and white now?
Yeah, I think so.
Drive down Main Street and Hingham, every building's white.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. I like a little variety.
See Kendall Lane is all gray and white.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to have the white paint concession in Edgartown, too.
Well, the town, in its wisdom, took down all the Victorian buildings, which is, sort of too bad. But this is really a great improvement, a tremendous, a huge change, and big improvement. It's really very, very nice.
Well, if you're concerned about color, the shingles, I mean, the shutters can add a punch of color also to the outside if you want to do that.
And of course, the trees are going to do that. Not to pick nits, but there are different kinds of arborvitae. Some of them stay small and some of them get big. So that it would make a difference which one you choose. But this is really very, very nice. If there's no further comment or question, could we request a positive motion for our next meeting?
We still haven't received a review from the engineering division
No.
of the recently submitted plans. But
Well, assuming we get it and it's okay.
we can certainly
If
put,
it's not okay, you'll be in touch with the people you need to be.
Yep.
Other than that, we could have that.
that sounds great.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you. Good way to work. Yeah.
Soak that in, Bob. You don't get that too often.
People don't know which clap for on.
The Enterprise here?
I know.
They don't.
Doesn't matter, they're happy.
That was quick.
That was amazing.
2 meetings, 3 meetings?
Right. Oh, wait, we have more on our agenda.
That's what happens when people work together to make good things happen.
Also, when you write a really good bylaw.
Oh, right.
That's also true.
I was kidding.
But it's true.
It's true.
This is the first.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
It's working.
Just like our ADU bylaws.
it's working. Right.
It takes time.
Okay. Let's not get carried away. We've got more on our agenda. We've got a bit more to go. If we could, we'll see if we can do this as expeditiously. Okay, next. We have an applicant, Backyard ADUs is their name, on behalf of Mark Delorme. I might have mispronounced that. Site plan review application for a detached accessory apartment located at 345 Carriage Shop Road. There's a notice to abutters. Paul, do you want to read the notice? Bob is not reading tonight.
16 abutters were notified by regular mail for this public meeting, and the publishing date was August 26th.
Excuse me, we can't close that door?
Can you tell the people out there to be quiet? We can't hear.
I know, but we can't close the door, it's a law.
Can I close it down a little bit?
A little bit.
Can I just tell them to be quiet?
Yes, please do.
Paul, did you finish that?
Nicely.
What date was it published?
August 26th,
Thank
2022.
you. I thought.
Okay, that's the notice to the abutters. And now, who is speaking for Mark Delorme and Backyard ADUs?
Good evening, Madam Chair and the board. My name is Tim O'Reilly. I work with Backyard ADUs, and I'm representing the homeowner and his mother, who this accessory dwelling unit will be built for. And I'm looking forward to your feedback, and thanks to the planning department as well for their feedback in order for us to be here tonight. So looking at our proposed accessory dwelling unit, it It'll be a one-bedroom unit with an attached single-car garage. The intent here is to meet the purpose of the bylaw to age in place, so the homeowner's mother can live there close to her family on the existing property. Scroll down. Look at our floor plan. So like I just mentioned, we have a single bedroom ADU with an open concept kitchen and living room. We've carved off a small space. As we learned through the pandemic, it's important to have a small desk area where you may be able to take a Zoom call or have a quiet space, and then again, a one-car garage. This will be the only ADU on the lot. The lot size is greater than 7,500 square feet, so it should meet all those requirements. The main house will remain owner-occupied, and the ADU will not be rented, as his mother will be living here.
Could be. Under the bylaw, it could be.
It could be, but yes,
Right, not now, but you
Yes.
should say, is it conforming to the bylaw?
Yes, it is conforming to the bylaw. Thank you. As I'm going through here, we received some great feedback from the planning department, and I'd like to clarify tonight on our architectural drawings here. We show a dimension of 12 feet 8 inches. On our site plan, that is shown, if we zoom in here, as 13 feet. So this rounding error of going from 12 feet 8 inches on here, 13 feet, has caused a little bit of confusion on what is the exact size. So going back to the floor plan here, these are all things we're looking forward to correcting for our next submission. We also have on here, this dimension shows 32 feet 4 inches. Our calculations, we are calculating the ADU to be 595 square feet. If you use this dimension here, 32 feet 4 inches, our CAD file pulled extra drywall layers for a fire break. So that dimension will be corrected to 32 feet 3 inches, which will get us to that 595 square feet. So as I'm going through that review, if you did use these exact dimensions, you would get 596 square feet, but that was an error we will correct. Also, in the feedback we got, we were going based on a conservative estimate, that 595 square feet, and we did hear in that review that it could possibly be more. So we're looking forward to getting feedback, working with the planning department to see if that is a possibility. So I just wanted to get ahead of myself on those couple dimensional errors, and then look at that feedback from the zoning. Fantastic. All right. The footprint is smaller than the main house, so it's satisfactory in that sense. We will be connecting in terms of utilities to the existing septic system, and I defer to the Department of Health. That will be satisfactory in that. Likewise, with our water connection, we will be deferring to the water board and using an increased, up to snuff water line, and we'll be dealing with the power company. For those utilities, the ADU, our application stated that we were not in the coastal overlay district, and our review found that we are. So our lot size is large enough, and in terms of 10,000 square feet per bedroom. So going back to that septic piece, we're in compliance, and we're looking forward to ensuring that we're in compliance for everything else under the coastal pond overlay. In terms of our design, we went with classic Cape styling in terms of trim work, details around the windows, architectural shingles, siding, and then design elements to make sure that this home fits in and fits all those design requirements. We'll also note on the site plan here where we're located. So the proposed accessory dwelling unit here will be tucked around this wooded area here and will not be very visible from Carriage Shop Road. And in addition to that, it's important here to look at parking. So our accessory dwelling unit will have an area here that accesses the one-car garage, so one parking spot And in addition, there's a plethora of parking here outside the existing dwelling unit. We did not show that you are able to park up here at the ADU on our site plan. And that's another thing that we will adjust for a future round. But I want you to know that there is adequate parking, 2 spaces for the existing dwelling unit, and then there will be an additional 2 spaces for this accessory apartment. Right. There was a question in the review about how far away our ADU is from the main house. Pulling this dimension here from this corner to our nearest quarter on the ADU is 110 feet. So it is a bit away. Looking at the site contours is important as well. These are all marked on our site plan in 1-foot intervals. So thinking about drainage on site, there will be no runoff into the public way. And as well here, on the other side, we are well within that 100-foot buffer down to the pond. We have these wetlands delineated as part of our surveying process, so that everything there is shown on the site plan and flagged on site. It was brought to our attention that, so we are in this wildlife migration area, which is a very fantastic thing that we have here in Falmouth. So just in terms of thinking about wildlife corridors, there is this large area here, 100 feet from the pond, that is undeveloped and a fantastic corridor. Thinking about fencing on site, there is a small fence here around this small area of the existing dwelling. There are no other fences on site in terms of thinking about the wildlife migration. Yeah, and that's, so yeah, everything here has been delineated by the environmental scientist and shown on that plan. Other items here that came up in the review that I want to make sure I address are parking. We covered that. All right. Application narrative. And then I was brought to the attention that the house is in the MCH inventoried area. And again, our proposed accessory dwelling unit here is tucked away behind this wooden area, buffered from Carriage Shop Road. So we hope that it will not have an impact here on that title for the existing house. For the sake of time, I'd love to get your feedback so I can take notes here. And
Okay, I think that we'll open it up to, first, is there anyone else who wants to speak about the plan before the board comments? Any comments?
Yeah.
I got a question.
Jim?
Yeah, what's the name of your firm?
Backyard ADUs.
Do you specialize in backyard ADUs? Is that your particular thing?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, no, because it's a good plan. I just want to make sure we haven't seen somebody with a name that's doing exactly what we want to do.
Exactly.
So it's a
Whenever
good thing.
I have to explain my email, it's always, I'm spreading the word on accessory dwelling units.
No, I just wanted to point it out. I recognize that I did it intentionally to bring attention to, good job.
Thank you.
Are you based in Maine?
We're based in Massachusetts and Maine.
Bob?
What's the existing roof pitch, what's the roof pitch on the existing dwelling?
On the existing dwelling. That is a great question. I don't have an answer for you right now, but I can get that to you.
So does it match the ADU?
No.
No, the ADU is a 712, but you can't see that the ADU on the site.
Well, part of the bylaw is that these are supposed to look as if they were part of the original structural elements of the lot. And roof lines and roof pitches and siding and all that does come into play. And I realize that this is a more rural area, so having it tucked away, it does kind of fit into the farm type of mode where you have a house and a barn and an outbuilding here and there. I just thought I'd mention that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I hadn't seen that until you brought it up. It's true, but I hadn't seen the photograph either. We didn't have that. Could you
Yeah, let me scroll
show
down.
that photograph?
Yep.
For part of the reason why we didn't do the full pitch roof is it just adds cost to the project. It adds more materials, more asphalt shingles, so it's not quite as environmentally friendly to do that way. It's very incremental in that sense, but as it's out of sight, we didn't think that having a slightly shallower roof pitch would impact that decent character.
Well, it's hard to know the lifespan of the trees that are covering it, or of the house for that matter, but at some point, they may not be covered. And it is part of the bylaw to make them similar in character. And certainly the roof pitch is a very strong element in character. Yeah, I'd like to compliment you too on your renderings. I used to do renderings. I think these are really nice. This is good.
Thank you.
Yeah. John, did you want to say something?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Pat?
This has nothing to do with the ADU unit, but when I look at this, I have trouble reading it. That's the floor plan of the original, okay? Because there's a lot of handwriting in there, and I don't know if it's easy enough to just do something to clean it up a bit. I don't know.
Yeah,
Because I don't want to add more expense.
This is the first for us, so we'll know that future projects in Falmouth, for those existing condition drawings to put them in a similar, easier to read
Yes, please.
format.
It doesn't have to be as detailed as that, but if we can get a better idea of the dimensions. Because I have trouble trying to decipher handwriting sometimes.
Right. Jed or Melinda, do you wish to comment on this?
Well, it's my understanding that the hand-drawn existing house drawings are acceptable and have been in the past.
Save money.
They are.
That's why we did it, that we do accept it to save money.
But I understand the comment, because it does take a little bit of extra time for us to clarify that 40% rule and the square footage.
But this meets the 40% rule.
Absolutely.
That's all, that's the most important.
Right, but it takes a little extra time, as you said, and that's,
Right.
I guess in summary, if you saw our staff report, you'd see it passes all the tests that the applicant has indicated. There may be some cleanup, and it sounded like potentially they may be expanding it. I'm not sure if that was your
I think they
intent,
wanted to
but
correct some minor.
Yeah, we have some dimensions to correct, and we'd love to clarify on what that 40% maximum would be.
Sure.
According to the calculations, even if you went, if it was 596 rather than 595, it would still be within the correct amount.
Either way.
The largest it can be is 640 square feet.
Okay.
That's
wonderful.
40%.
Great. Thank you.
In regards to my roof pitch comment, on the back of the building, there's a shallower pitch, so, I mean, that might appease us as well.
Right, well, what's the sense of the board? Do you want to hold this up over the roof pitch? No. No, I wouldn't think so. It was a possibility.
Well,
Just
in
keeping
some
it open.
cases, that could happen. I mean,
It could.
if you're with neighbors and it looks like a duplex and there's reasons for doing it, but this is
Yeah,
different.
not now. Okay, hearing what the board has to say, if we could request a positive motion for September 27th.
I don't know if they can get it.
I just have a question. Are you intending to try to make it a little bigger?
We'll talk to our client and get
Okay.
it right back to you.
It might not give
Okay,
them
as
enough.
long as there's no changes and just cleanup changes, then
Right.
we can do a positive motion.
Okay.
But if they're gonna expand it,
Okay, then we need to
it's up to you,
close the
I
hearing.
guess.
I mean, we could still draft.
We can still draft a decision, but
It would
as
just
long
be
as they
filling
stay
the
under.
blanks.
Okay, well, let's not close the hearing. We'll see what happens. We'll assume that we'll have the motion if we need it,
We'll
and
have
that'll be
it
good.
drafted.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks. And it's interesting that now there's going to be a business doing ADUs. That's really terrific.
We have one more
I didn't
tonight.
realize that Maine
so-
had gotten in there with a bylaw. They're popular in Maine?
Yeah,
We started in Western Mass, so it's East Hampton and Northampton that kicked things off for us.
Ah,
But Portland, Maine did a very they allow 2 ADUs per lot.
oh.
Wow. And they took quite the step.
You need a 2-acre lot to have an ADU?
No, you can have 2 ADUs.
On one lot.
Oh, 2.
3 units on one lot.
How large do the lots have to be to accommodate that?
It just comes into coverage ratios. So if you get creative, you can make it work.
I don't think that's going to happen here.
Oh, I don't think so.
That may have been overreach.
Yeah. Well, Well, it's interesting, thank you. And now you're up again. Our next on our agenda, backyard ADUs on behalf of William Brenner. Site plan review application for a detached accessory apartment located at 3 Ruth Terrace. We could see that. And you understand, because they're detached, you're going to have to go to the ZBA also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Notice?
Notice, Paul?
Public reading notice for 3 Ruth Terrace was published on August 26, 2022, and 27 abutters were notified by regular mail.
Thank you. Okay.
Awesome. All right, we'll take it away. So this is another detached ADU. The purpose as well is to bring family together. The homeowner's sister is hoping to move into the backyard, and designed to age in place so that this will be a great solution for their family. Just like our project before, this will be the only ADU on the lot. The lot size is greater than 7,500 square feet, so it'll be possible. The house will continue to be owner occupied. The ADU will not be rented currently, but will be compliant with the bylaw. On the size, we work with the planning department, and we are at 750 square feet, which is, we're at that 40% ceiling compared to the main house. We're obviously smaller than the footprint of the main house. So taking a look here at our elevations, you'll see that our ADU, again, with these design standards, is subordinate to the existing house. We're in the backyard, and we've designed roof pitches, siding, trim, windows to match the character of the neighborhood and the existing house. So let's scroll down, let's take a look at our floor plans. So, running a business, dealing with ADUs, there's a lot of design requirements. So in this case, it's a single family, or single bedroom, and we have a bathroom, and again, we have this small space where our client will be able to do her sewing projects, and then our open concept kitchen and living room. And the entryway in this case will be a covered porch, so that she'll have a space to sit on the porch. Her dog will have a space as well. Great. The way this will work in our backyard here is, we'll look at the site plan in a second. Our porch will also act as a retaining wall, and we'll have some steps down into the backyard. So taking a look at our site plan. Zoom in here. Great. So our existing dwelling here is in the center of the lot. Much like the last one, we did not point out where the specific 2 additional spaces will be for the ADU, but it should be noted here that this driveway is quite large. From the property line back to, where am I here? This point here is 77 feet, and this is 24 feet wide, which, looking in the zoning bylaw, does constitute that 2-way traffic width. So we believe there will be adequate enough parking for the 4 required spaces for the ADU. Our ADU is over here in the backyard, and you'll see here again, these are our stairs into that backyard, where they'll be able to access the shared backyard space. Noting the contours on our line here, so we are 34, 33, 32. The topography of this lot is such that water collects in the backyard and recharges, and this septic system is designed for that. In order to make this project work in the Coastal Ponds Overlay District, we are needing to convert one of the bedrooms from the main house here. It's currently 3 bedrooms. One of these bedrooms will pull the appropriate building permit. We've spoken to the building department about exactly how to do that to make it compliant. Turn what is currently being used as an office into an official office by enlarging the doorway. That will allow us to have this 1-bedroom ADU connect to the existing septic that is adequate to handle that 3-bedroom load. So that will be a part of our project as well. Looking specifically at the feedback we got, stormwater was one that was brought up on this single-family lot, disturbing far less than 1 acre. And then looking at the topography here, no stormwater will be discharged to abutters or into the public way. It is sort of, for lack of a better term, sort of a basin here. So we're, although we are adding this ADU, we're not impacting the flow of water here, and we will have a footing drain for our foundation that will act to move water as it is currently being moved. Size, we talked about that. Our design standards, our utilities. So with feedback from the water department, they requested a brand new 1-inch line, which is generally our standard anyways. And like I just spoke, we defer to the Board of Health to ensure that this plan complies as needed. And let me make sure I've gone over all the feedback so that I can adequately answer all your questions. That should be everything. Thank you.
Okay, questions? I think, Pat, you had some questions.
Yeah, I'm looking at this bedroom to be converted to office space. And I'm looking at, obviously, the new bathroom there, or is it an already existing bathroom? I don't know, I can't tell.
On the ADU plan?
No, on the second floor of the original, the existing. I can't tell, in other words.
Yeah.
And my question is, it seems to me that it might be better to keep that, what's considered office space, as a bedroom. It's much larger than the bedroom. And then you've got office space in the, kind of like the hallway there, too. It's hard for me to understand what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, so in the existing house, the homeowners do use this space as an office. But in order to ensure, per the building department, that this is viewed as an office and not as a bedroom, we must enlarge the existing doorway to be at least 4 feet. So we'll pull the building permit, basically rip that door casing out, make it larger. We do have to move an electrical outlet, but then that space is officially deemed an office.
You have no door there. The door will be removed.
Exactly. There's no door, and the doorway is enlarged.
Okay.
So it's not, you take the door off and then put it back.
So you'll have 2 bedrooms in the main house?
Yes.
And 1 in the ADU?
Exactly. Yep. So there's 3 current bedrooms, and that we will keep 3 bedrooms on site. Per the coastal overlay district, you can't expand the number of bedrooms.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that what's called a bedroom to be converted is actually being used currently as an office? Or am I wrong? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so it's a 3-bedroom house. They only use 2 bedrooms. We are gonna take this space that is a bedroom, convert it to an office to maintain its existing.
Officially convert it to an office.
Exactly. Yep. Thank you.
As long as it's in the plans, they've got to do it, and it conforms to the
Oh, I'm not questioning. I'm just having trouble with the hand sketches there and the turbine.
Yes. No, and I have that feedback for next time to ensure that we put it in a easier visual format.
So you're all set on that?
Yes.
Other questions, concerns? Bob?
Just some questions. It looks like you're going to tie into the existing septic?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just curious, are these on slabs or crawl spaces, full basements?
That's a great question. Yeah, so our typical foundation is a 18-inch insulated crawl space.
Yeah.
So it's insulation on both sides, your concrete rebars in the middle. That's 18 inches, and then our floor system is above it.
Yeah.
And that 18 inches is enough space so that the plumber, electrician, and HVAC professional all can climb in there on a mechanical creeper and can run all their lines.
Yeah.
So that space is conditioned, so you can easily access everything that might need, repairs.
Now, are you guys just the designers, or do you also build them?
We design and build.
Good for you.
Thank you.
I'd love to have gotten into this 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Building little houses, it's cool.
That's it for questions?
I think it's great.
Any comments from the public? No. Thank you. And same response here. It's our understanding that this is foursquare with all the requirements of the bylaw. Nicely done. And we will request a positive motion for next time. And there appear to be no changes you intend to make on the drawings?
Nope.
No. So we can go forward with that.
How many of these have you guys built?
That's a great question. It changes. So, speak to Mass, we've built,
In total, not just Massachusetts, just what's your total experience?
We're up to, we finished 14. We're gonna finish, bring that up to, sorry, we're growing very quickly.
More than a dozen anyways.
Definitely more than a dozen. This
That's
year,
all,
we
just
will
wanted,
finish 21 units. And then last year, we did 8. And then the first year, we did 2. So there's an enormous demand in Mass, and we're doing our best to try to fulfill it.
Yeah.
An enormous demand on the Cape.
Yeah.
We have had an enormous amount of people reaching out to us on the Cape. We're hoping to do some work with the HAC as well to help them.
I would
fill
think
all the
so.
people reaching out to them.
Right,
It's a great niche.
right. You should make a presentation to the Affordable Housing Committee, John.
Yeah,
They'd want to hear this.
yeah.
You think?
Sure.
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, the other thing I've learned tonight is that apparently because of COVID and the Zooming, you have to now add these little study carols built into a house. That's like a new wrinkle.
Yeah.
Huh.
Hey,
You mentioned positive notion for what date? 9/27 or
Oh,
later?
yes, September 27th.
27, thank you.
Right, please.
And you shall have it.
Thank you. And thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
great job.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that remarkable?
Whole new industry. Working on now, it's all seems to be, there's a company that's designing what we want.
Doing exactly that, yeah.
I just had trouble with the hand renderings as to what's going on.
No, I didn't understand it
Think how
either.
hard we fought
To get it.
to get it, and how long it took. But now it's like, there's a company
It's a
who
whole thing.
specializes.
Right.
buildings.
Well, think of the negativity we also got too in response. We're gonna have so much population around here. Don't want it, you know?
Well, but they might be right about that. These are really catching on.
Building.
You know what?
This is a wonderful way to make it
Yeah,
happen.
your question, it is, it is.
As well?
Almost. Wait, guys, wait a minute, we're not quite done. Let's finish up and then we can chat. This was time for a discussion. Does anyone wish to make a committee report?
The meeting, sorry. Sorry. You
Good
take care.
night.
Good night.
Any committee reports? Paul?
I'd just like to make a comment. The Transportation Committee submitted its final report at the end of June and requested that the status be held in abeyance until the Select Board can appoint 3 new members.
Right,
We're
you've
down
been
3 members.
disbanded.
But I have not seen anything since that time.
Yeah,
Obviously, there's a lot of other things going on.
well, you did your best. Thank you very much for sticking it out. That was hard duty.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, any other reports? No? Announcements?
We do have an
If
announcement.
we do,
Oh, we do.
Oh, yeah.
We're happy to announce that the planning department is fully staffed.
Yes.
First time in how long?
yeah,
For
and
a
welcome Julie.
Long time.
Yes, and if
Welcome,
you guys
Julie.
haven't met Julie, go
Yeah,
meet her.
Julie
She's
Parker,
awesome.
Yep, just joined us from the building department. She's got an extensive amount of experience down there. She knows permanence like the back of her hand, she claims.
And I bet it's true.
No, it is, it is. She's terrific, and so she just started on Monday, which was hard to believe yesterday. And things have been terrific, so we're very excited for that.
So well chosen, well done, you two, in picking your third person. Paul?
I didn't hear that glowing recommendation for the new assistant town planner.
You weren't here for that when I
You
announced
and I
it.
both missed it, Paul.
You gotta show up once in a while, Paul.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're really glad that that's happened. Future agenda items, well, all the stuff we said that's gonna turn up on the 27th.
Yeah.
There'll be that, and we'll do the hearing again. I thought the hearing was going to be going forward. Town meeting already accepted most of it. All we're really needing a hearing on is the stuff they want changed, right? So I was a little surprised by the direction that the hearing took.
Well, what we're trying to do is do an educational campaign as well, because it is a confusing topic. People are asking all sorts of questions, so we're trying to just set the record straight on where we are, how we got here, what recodification is for those of folks who are interested, and then how we move forward. And I think we did that tonight.
We did do that. I guess what I want to say is I don't think we need to do it again in the same way.
No.
Because our only real audience for this are the town meeting members. They're going to vote on it, and we want them to understand why, oh Lord, they're having to now vote again on what appears to be the same thing. So I think if we could just do, what did the AG send us, and people could see what we actually received, they'll have the same reaction that I know we had, where, oh, so this is all it is?
Yeah.
And go forward. It can be quick. We don't have to make it longer by beginning at the beginning, as if we were starting all over. Yeah.
I think Bob Mitchell's yellow line should be sent to every town meeting member. It just makes it so clear.
But the yellow line I thought we would get wasn't the one for tonight, the paper-saving one. It was the original one he did for us that showed the old, the new, the comment. We can look at this.
Yeah, I think probably what we got, though, is you're asking town meeting members who are overwhelmed with a lot of materials.
Oh.
Okay, so this might be better just to have the shorter version that we got tonight.
Well, so what we are planning on doing is mailing every town meeting member a copy of the zoning bylaw. We can definitely include that 10-page, 85-item piece of document that we went through this evening. We also plan to send them the FAQ, just as a matter of saying, this is what happened, this is how we're moving forward, please support it when it comes to town meeting in November. Without trying to overwhelm them. We just want to make sure that we're reaching out to every member and giving everyone the same information. Which is why I tried to highlight it, the website too.
Oh, no, I think that's
one-stop
excellent.
shop.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's there. Okay, good, then. Our next meeting is September 27th. I hope you will all be there.
And move adjournment.